If you're a Harry Potter fan, you're in for a treat because today's C1, C2 listening and vocabulary lesson centres around the Harry Potter extravaganza that was my recent trip to the Harry Potter studios here in England. This is Sam and welcome to Logic. Buckle up and brace yourselves because you have Harry Potter galore coming your way. Before we immerse ourselves in the actual experience of the studios and before I start bombarding you with pictures, I'd like to talk about and navigate the global phenomenon that Harry Potter was when it came out and still is to this day, as I simply find it fascinating and astounding, and the magnitude and intensity of the impact it's had on our lives on a universal scale is to me completely mind-boggling and hard to grasp. Not because I don't think it deserves it, but just because I can't quite come to grips with how anything can leave such a strong mark in, well, history. I was 10 when Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone came out. I'd never heard of the books beforehand, but I absolutely love magic. So needless to say, I was hooked the moment the film started. And I think I speak for a lot of those who had no prior knowledge of the books when I say that the first and primary component that I was drawn to was the spectacular special effects, which I think were groundbreaking, especially considering they were talking about 20 years ago. And that film did change our lives in that we were all absolutely obsessed, and the anticipation for every single new installment to come out was really thrilling. My favourite film is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire because of the never-ending multitude of mesmerising special effects. To me, that film represents the apotheosis and apex of magic in the whole saga. The maze, the swimming in the lake, the dragons, and the Yule Ball even simply left me gobsmacked. If you've been following my channel for a while, you probably know that I'm a singer, but I am not sure I've ever mentioned that I originally trained in screen acting in order to become a film and TV actor. And what originally inspired me and spurred me on to become an actor in the first place was indeed Harry Potter. I couldn't find any good pictures on my laptop, but the funny thing is that when I was younger I used to wear glasses and I used to look a lot like Daniel Radcliffe. So my dream was to be Harry Potter for real, but as we all know, that did not quite come to pass. Since I studied screen acting, I feel that gave me an even deeper appreciation for the films because I know what happens behind the scenes in terms of creating special effects and what actors are required to do to make us believe the magic is real. Now I'm going to say something that will probably get me a lot of hate comments, but since I'm an actor, I'm naturally more drawn to films and visual content. I started reading the books after 3 or 4 films, and possibly because of the way my brain is hardwired, with any story, if I read the book after watching the film, the book in my head simply can't hold a candle to the film. Once the images of the film are burnt into my brain, the book just doesn't quite live up to it. So, whilst I know most people prefer the books to the films, I belong to the very small niche group that prefers the films. But again, we should probably chalk that up to occupational hazard. Regardless of which medium we prefer, what we can and must agree on is that the Harry Potter world is a force to be reckoned with, and again, I can't believe that over 20 years on, its relevance hasn't wavered, faltered or waned a single bit. Here in London, in King's Cross Station, we still have massive queues of people wanting to take a picture of platform 9 3/4, and we have a lot of shops selling wands and all sorts of Harry Potter gadgets, and they're always heaving with people. Also, from a language point of view, the films offer every single thing you want to know and absorb about English, its various accents and how people change the way they speak it as they grow older. You can hear and see how children speak English, but also how those same people speak their same native language as adults, which I think is a very interesting analysis in any language. Okay, I've blabbered on and on enough. It's now time to get down to business and to give you a proper tour of the studios. As always, I am terrible at taking pictures, so bear with me. The studios are not exactly in London, they're in Watford, just outside London. Included in the ticket, you have a shuttle bus that takes you from Watford station to the studios. Some of the sets and things on display are fixed and always part of the tour. Other things belong to special collections and features that change throughout the year, so some of the things I'm showing you today you won't find if you go now. One of these special installations is Hogwarts in the Snow, which I didn't see because it's on only between November and January, but it must be breathtaking to see all of the sets bedecked with Christmas decorations and snow. When you arrive, you're welcomed by the chess pieces from the first film and by this massive dragon. We didn't eat in the food court, but I love the chocolate frog case-shaped cafe and the floating candles. The actual tour starts with a few bits and bobs from the films, and you sit in what looks like a cinema where they project an introduction by Harry, Ron and Hermione, and because they recorded that 10 years ago when the studios first opened, it's nice to see them as young as they were back then. The first actual set you see is the Great Hall. Now, you may or may not know this, but sets tend to be much smaller in real life than what they look like in films. It's all part of the optical illusion that cameras create. So in terms of size, the Great Hall may feel slightly underwhelming, but it's normal. It's always like that. At the end of the room you have the pendulum from the Owl's exam, which I don't have a picture of unfortunately, and you also have the mannequin of Dolores Umbridge. Here is where they reenact on a smaller scale when Fred and George interrupt the exams with fireworks. You then have a few props from all the films, the Yule Ball and the tap from the bathroom on the third floor, where you have coloured tubes with simple water running through them to give the illusion that it's actually coloured water. It's a simple trick, but it works. The dormitory and the beds are minuscule and the common room is small too. Dumbledore's office is really nice, but as you can see the place was swarming with people, so it was really hard to make a video without anyone in it. Here you have the Pensieve and the Triwizard Cup. We have the Potions classroom with an ominous mannequin of Severus Snape. Hagrid's hut is tiny and next to it there are some Quidditch items. They have an area where you can sit on brooms and simulate flying, and they take pictures and videos of you, and here you can see how the flying car is hit by the Whomping Willow. They also show the Burrow, the Weasley's house, but unfortunately I don't have any good pictures of it, and it's nice because they show you some bits of magic, such as the self-knitting piece of clothing and the dishes being washed. This specific bit was brilliant, but slightly scary with all the Death Eaters sitting at the table. The Forbidden Forest was great and fairly big considering that it was all built on purpose, and obviously there were a lot of big spiders hanging everywhere. You can actually get onto the Hogwarts Express and see where the actors sat, and here we bought a chocolate frog and Bertie Bott's every flavour beans. Now the chocolate frog was amazing. I thought it would be hollow, but when I bit into it I realised it was full of very good milk chocolate. But the beans, I mean, some of them were good, but some of them were absolutely vile and revolting. You get flavours like earwax, bogey, vomit, dirt, and a couple of them actually made us retch, so we had to spit them out. They were absolutely repulsive, but still an experience. Speaking of food, after the train you go into our second food court. We didn't eat there because the queue was massive and my brother is a celiac, but we did queue for the famous butterbeer, which, as you may have heard from other people who have been to the studios, was a huge disappointment. The froth is fairly nice because it's buttery and thick, but the liquid underneath is completely inconsequential. It doesn't taste of anything, it's just fizzy and that's all you taste. But just like the beans, it was a good experience. You can go into Harry's house and the greenhouse where you can pull out a mandrake, just like in the films. You are then taken to an area where they show you various models of monsters and creatures, Dobby included. After that, you enter the most majestic part of the tour, which is Gringotts. Obviously, the pictures do not do it justice, but the jaw-dropping elegance and pomp of it all were just stunning. I kept going back and forth to take it all in. You then go into the vaults and to a second set of Gringotts after it's been destroyed. And when we went, there was a hologram of a dragon stomping its way towards us until it breathed fire at us. And of course it was all fake, but we all shuddered and jolted backwards a little bit because it felt very real. You then walk through Diagon Alley and the tour ends on something I did not expect at all. You walk into this room where you see a model of the whole of the castle. It's quite big and you can walk around it because the stairs spiral downwards, and it shifts from day to night, so they project fireworks onto it at night. We all just stood there in complete awe of how touching and beautiful that was, and for fans like me, it was actually very emotional. I hope you've enjoyed this tour and learned a few new words along the way. For someone like me who literally grew up with Harry Potter, it was a sensational experience. It really struck a chord with me, and I highly recommend you go and see the studios for yourselves if you ever get the chance to. Unfortunately, this video is not sponsored by the studios, so I can't even give you a discount or anything, but you can ask your friends for a ticket as a birthday present. Before we go, you may have heard that a Harry Potter TV series is in the pipeline and in the works, so I'd like to know what's your stance on that. Personally, I am not a big fan of remakes and reboots, especially considering that Harry Potter only came to a full end 10 years ago. I think the original one is still so relevant that there's no need to revive it just yet, and I'm terrified it might backfire. I might just give it a go out of sheer curiosity, but I'm not holding my breath. Let me know in the comments how you feel about it. And that's it for today. If you like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe to my channel down below. And do let me know in the comments how you feel about the tour, about Harry Potter in general, and how much it means to you. In the meantime, I'll see you next Tuesday with another explanation video.